right, you are going to need your green notes booklet today. You're going to open up to the 4th tab, Evaluating Expressions, and we're going to take some notes in here. So now you are going to be introduced to a new part of math that you probably haven't worked with before, maybe on ALEKS, but probably not. And those are variables. So variables, just over here, are letters of the alphabet that stand for a missing number in a problem. A lot of the times you will see the letter X used, and that is the most common variable used. But you'll notice sometimes this, and we've talked about this before, it could be mistaken for a multiplication symbol, and that's why we've started to use a little dot for our multiplication symbol from now on. So X is a very common variable that you will see. A lot of the times if you are asked to create a variable, when creating a variable, choose what you are trying to find in the problem. To use the variable for. Example, if you're trying to find how many books are in a problem, how many books, you could use the letter B for your variable when you're finding the variable. Okay, we're not going to get to this part yet, but just so that you have this in your notes ready to go. A lot of times you'll see X, but sometimes you'll see other letters too, and especially when you're creating it, sometimes you want to make that variable tied to something that you're finding in the problem so that you're understanding what you're looking for. So now let's go over to the next page, Evaluating Expressions. You are going to substitute the given values for the variables into the expression in place of the variables. We're going to copy all the notes down first, and then we will make sense of what we're writing here. Then you're going to simplify using the order of operations, and then you'll find your answer. So order of operations, really quick review, is parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, add, and subtract. PEMDAS. And remember, left to right with these two, okay? Sometimes you have to solve the exponent if there is one inside of parentheses first before you solve the rest of the parentheses, so know that these two could be flip-flops sometimes. All right, so now let's make sense of what this is talking about. You will be given a value, a variable, and what that variable is equivalent to. And your job is to plug this number in place of the variable, that same variable, in the problem to solve what this would equal to. So if X equals 3, we're going to plug 3 in for X. Now that means that we are not saying 23 minus 5 in this case. We are saying 2 times 3, because two numbers next to each other means multiply together. Okay, so we have 2 times 3 minus 5. Now, if we follow the order of operations, we're going to multiply and divide, or multiply first and then subtract. So then we have 2 times 3 is 6 minus 5, and we end up getting 1 as our answer. Okay, so that was just one problem. What I'm going to have you do now is flip open into your math textbook, the guided practice, page 452. And we're going to solve some problems in here just to get a few more examples under your belt. So we have m equals 4, z equals 9, and r equals 1/6 given to us up at the top. So we're on page 452. And when we're looking at this one, if we have 3 plus m, I'm going to plug 4 in for m because that's what that's equal to, and then I'm going to solve my problem. So we end up doing 3 plus 4, and my answer is 7. Now this one has two variables, z minus 4m. So let's plug 9 in for z. So 9 minus 4 equals 5. So 5 would be our answer for that problem. Now, here again, we'll see two numbers right next to each other. A lot of the times you will hear this number outside of the variable or right next to the variable be referred to as the coefficient, which is a really fancy word for a number outside of a variable, just like this. So when you see them right next to each other, we're going to multiply them. So we have 12 times, and I'm just going to put a parenthesis here. When you have a number next to a parenthesis, it also means multiply. 1/6. But wait, that's a fraction. We have a whole number here. So I'm going to rewrite it over here and do 12 times 1/6. When we multiply a whole number by a fraction, you have to put your whole number over 1 and multiply straight across. But I see a spot where we can divide ahead of time. You can divide this by 6 and get 1, this by 6 and get 2. And I have 2 times 1 is 2, 1 times 1 is 1, 2 over 1 is my answer, 2 is my perfect answer. All right, number 4. 4m minus 2. So we have two operations going on here, multiply and subtract. I'm going to do 4 times m is 4, and then minus 2. So I have 16 when I multiply these two together, minus 2, and get 14 as my answer. Next one, 60r minus 4. 60 times r, and if I remember correctly, yep, r is a fraction. So I'm going to write it like this. Minus 4. So I'm going to multiply this, put 60 over 1. I can multiply or divide ahead of time, get 1 and 10. 10 times 1 is 10. 1 times 1 is 1. So this actually ends up becoming 10 over 1. When you simplify that down, it gets 10. 10 minus 4, and we're left with 6. Now this one's got an exponent in here with us. So we have 3 times r, which again is 1/6, but then we're going to square that whole thing. So let's find out what inside this parentheses looks like here. And I put parentheses out here to know that we're squaring this entire thing, okay? Actually, you know what? Order of operations, we have to follow the exponent first, which means we have to square 1/6. So 1/6 squared, we're going to multiply 1/6 times 1/6. Just because that's multiplying it by itself 2 times, and we get 1/36. 1/36 times 3 over 1. We can divide ahead of time, and 1 and 12, and I get 1/12 as my answer. Okay, now, if I were to solve it this way first, by not following the order of operations, I would have gotten 1/2 squared, because I would have gotten 3 over 1, or 3 times 1 over 1 times 6, 3/6. 3/6 times 3/6, or 1/2 times 1/2 is 1/4. But I know that that's a whole lot different than 1/12, so that's why the order of operations is so important in this problem, or in these types of problems here. Okay, so your homework today is the lesson 3 skills practice that you were given earlier this week. You have quite a bit of problems on here. You are going to choose the evens to do. So you're only going to do the evens. Evens only. And you're going to fill out the chart up here. Okay, and then you're going to do the evens from this section and this section here. Now, this chart up here talks about variables, numbers, and operations. So I'll do the first one with you. What variables are in this problem here? I see the letter D and the letter C. Those are our variables, our missing numbers that they're working with in this problem here. What numbers or coefficients are they working with? 5 and 2. And what operation is taking place? Add. Okay, so you're going to fill out the other 2 problems on this table, and then you're going to do the evens here and the evens here. They have your values given to you up here. Make sure that you are filling in, you're showing your work. Because we're not doing the odds, if you want to use the space for the odds to show your work, if this is too small of a space, or if you want to do it on the back and label the problems that you're doing on the back, you're more than welcome to do that also. But evens only, this is due on either your in-person day today or your next in-person day if you're virtual today. Let me know if you have any questions.